Hello, everyone, and welcome to Café New Canadians. This session of Café New Canadians is brought to you in collaboration with Mennonite New Life Center and its bridging program. Let me tell you a little bit about the topic today, which is Build a Career in the Immigrant-Serving Sector. And Café New Canadians is brought to you by New Canadians TV Network. I'll tell you a little bit about that towards the end. But moving into the session, let me tell you that this session, in collaboration with Mennonite New Life Center and its bridging program, which helps people bridge to employment in services for immigrant populations. This is a bridging program for internationally educated professionals who can bridge the gap that is there in the Canadian job market for them to enter the immigrant-serving sector. We will be hearing a little bit more about that shortly as well. My name is Shruti, Dargan, and I'm the host for today's session. And I'm so pleased to welcome three panelists who will be joining us. Our guest speakers today are Naghmeh Janani. She is a graduate of the BESIP program by MNLCT. We also have Vrunda Bhatt and Amal El-Nakeeb, who are both immigrant-serving sector professionals. They will be sharing with you their guidance of how you can make it to the sector, and also what is it that you require specifically when it comes to skill set and other learnings that are there for you to join the sector. So a very warm welcome to all three panelists. And as they start joining us, let me also tell you that you will have an opportunity to ask questions to the panelists to learn more about the bridging program, to learn more about their experiences, as well as how you can enter the sector. Please share your questions with us on Zoom and YouTube, wherever you're joining us from. If it's Zoom, please use the Q&A tab and the chat box on YouTube. With that, once again, a very warm welcome to all three panelists. And let's just start with a round of introductions, I feel, just so that the attendees are able to learn more about you, and then they can prepare their questions for you. So how about we start with Naghmeh? Naghmeh, if you could just tell us a little bit more about yourself than what I just shared, that you're a graduate of the program, but of course, we would like to know a little bit about your immigration journey as well. You know, what brought you to Canada and what is it that you do right now? You could keep it brief for now, and then I will be, of course, asking you more questions specifically.
Okay, thank you, Shruti. And thank you for having me. I'm so happy to joining us and joining you in the panel. As you know, my name is Naghmeh. I'm from Iran, and I studied psychology in Iran. And I was working as a psychotherapist in my back home for many years. And after I came to Canada in 2019, I was looking for a right pathway to find a job in our career or continue education. As you know, as a new immigrant and a newcomer, I faced lots of challenges in my life. After 5 months after I came to Canada, the COVID-19 was started and everything was shut down, and I lost lots of connection that I could make at that time, you know. So it was very hard for me, and I had many challenges. But I used
You've been able to bridge the gap in some ways from the pandemic to where you are right now, I believe.
Yeah. And you know, it was very hard time, and made me sad, and I felt very lonely. I felt that I'm lonely, and at that time I didn't know what should I do, and how can I find. So one person guided me that you can go to a newcomer organization and want some help from the people who work there, especially about for persons as a job developer or as a education counselor. I did it, and I started to go there and attended in many short workshops before COVID and after COVID as online. At that time it was very useful for me because it helped me to make some connection and find more connections. And I thought that this field at that time attracted me. That is very, very fulfilled field because as a newcomer, I can understand the feeling, the situation for the others, And
Naghmeh, before you move on, that is something that I would actually like to talk about a little bit, that, the feeling that everyone has as a newcomer when they arrive in the country. And you also mentioned about what you were going through during the pandemic. And I think I can speak for everyone that I'm sure that what you expressed was exactly how so many people around the world were feeling.
Yeah.
Let's also hear it from the other panelists right now, and I'll come back to you for your newcomer experience. Amal, if you could go next and just share a little bit about yourself with the audience today.
Hi, my name is Amal El-Nakeeb. I actually immigrated to Canada back in 2019. Like any newcomer, I was kind of exploring everything, going to settlement organizations to kind of see how they can help me out and get a feel of what kind of thing I'm going to be doing here. I have a background in mass communications and I have a master's in television and digital journalism. So I was actually focused more on getting something along those lines. And I did. I actually worked for New Canadians for a little bit as a video journalist. And New Canadians kind of opened up a little bit of space to kind of explore how newcomers are coming, the different programs and everything, which made me then go to CCIS. And there I took the normal preparatory courses that we take for any newcomer, like fixing your resume, doing all that. And then after I finished the program, they put you into different like mentorship programs, networking, volunteering. You're doing all of that on your own. And then it actually kind of clicked. I kind of like helping out people. I've always loved telling their stories, looking at it from a different perspective and all of that from the media sense. And I do have a teaching background from back home. I used to teach to undergraduates at university. And I was project coordinator for their professional development programs. So I had kind of a mixture of a different background, different experiences. So just to quickly put it, I got offered a job at the organization I took all these courses at. They saw potential in me and they gave me a chance, and I've been with them ever since, and I've been lucky to kind of join the immigrant sector through them.
And that's wonderful to hear. And I'm so sure that, through the things that you mentioned, you will be able to guide the attendees today about, irrespective of what field they had or the experience that they brought with them before they moved to Canada, there is still a way for them to, if something inside them tells them that they would want to be in a space wherein they're able to help fellow newcomers and serve this population, there are so many ways, and we will be exploring those. Vrunda, coming to you next, could you share a little bit? I know that your journey is similar in some ways, your background in mass communication and journalism as well, similar to Amal's, but tell us a little bit about yourself and how you made it to the immigrant sector as well.
First of all, thank you, Shruti and Jared, for having me here. It's an honor to be on the other side. Similar to, I think I have a mix of Naghmeh and Amal's story. I came in May 2019. I never thought something like pandemic would happen and my world will came to standstill. So I was searching for a job, but not very aggressively, and I didn't realize that journalism would be that difficult too. I have a background in journalism. I was a journalist. I have worked with not-for-profit as a communications officer, but mostly I was a journalist. So I think I still am. So, but I never really got anything full-time, despite the efforts, despite the work. I have a sound local portfolio of being associated with the journalism brands, but I never really got something full-time, and you have to take up something for survival. I have been to so many EU organizations for help. Coincidentally, somebody messaged me, somebody I didn't even know, messaged me on LinkedIn that we have a marketing and communications position, and I've heard about you from my mentor. Would you be willing to do it? And that was with an EU organization, So I was like, Wood Green Community Services. So I was like, why not? I would love to take it up. And that's how I got my first job. My then boss moved to another. She took me to another organization, which was also the settlement services. And this is my third as a frontline worker, all different titles, but it's been great. I can just go on and on about it.
So you've highlighted something which is like the networking aspect of your career growth.
This is why, this is all three. I think that first job was not advertised anywhere. Second job also, I am sure, was not advertised anywhere. Third job I just got because somebody was doing a workshop there and he told me, why don't you check out the website and apply for a community connections role. And I applied for community connections role and they were like, we want to consider you for a job developer role. I'm like, okay, I'll take it up. I just want a job. And that's
it's so nice to hear that it's all worked out for you. And, if so early into the session, if I were to kind of announce like 3 takeaways that I've been able to spot would be that, Naghmeh mentioned about a little bit of like, you could feel a little low initially, but then things do work out because she found help in the form of a bridging program that was able to guide her. And Amal, you, of course, with a wealth of experience across fields, were able to make it to a career that you seem to be enjoying. You've stuck on in a job that you say that you love. And for Vrunda, of course, that you have to continue networking and you have to make sure that you put your value out there to people for them to recognize what you can bring to a role. And then, of course, there are options. But something that is common between all of you over here is that you're highly interested in the immigrant serving sector. And with that, I would want to know a little bit about, from Naghmeh, as you were mentioning earlier about your experience, you are someone who also having worked as a psychotherapist earlier back in Iran. Tell me, what was the initial either challenge or experience for you when you started applying for jobs here in Canada? And were there any specific barriers that you faced in your employment journey? And then I would want to know from the other 2 professionals over here that if that does happen, what are some of the tips that they would have for other newcomers who face those problems? So Naghmeh, if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Okay. As a psychotherapist, psychotherapy is a regulated job in Canada, and working as a psychotherapy needs to go in a long, it's a professional pathway and need more time, take time, improve ourselves, specifically as a language in language and language barrier. For example, for myself, it was the biggest problem. And so, I know when I came to Canada, I didn't have any perspective about the subjects, about the aspects. But after that, I found that, yes, I can do it, but need more time. But take time, and I should be patient. I should be found the right way, So, and at first need to keep our mental health in our journey. It's very important. Yeah. I at that time I heard about bridging programs and was familiar with the Mennonite New Life Center as a center that provides some bridging programs in different professional fields. And I applied also for the bridging program, and at that time I like to work in a new immigrant field, but I thought that I should apply for college and attended in the course college as a social service worker, for example. And I didn't know that as a bridging program, I can do it and I can go in a short way, and save my time and save money and reach in a short way. So after that, I was familiar and I attended, and For brain at first that I applied as a psychotherapist, I need to more I should more improve myself more than right now.
But if I may ask you, just a side question that I had for you. Of course, you had worked in the field, and you mentioned that being a psychotherapist is a regulated profession here.
Yeah.
However, there are still some skills that you bring with you, which would help you in your career in general in the immigrant-serving sector. So if you had to highlight, what would you say would be the top 2 skills that you brought with you for you to be able to kind of take the help of this bridging program and then kind of make your way to employment in the sector?
Yeah, as a psychotherapist who used to working with clients, different clients, and have some skills in counseling and being a patient and and having some soft skills as an active listener and be an empathetic person. All the skills help me to work with the clients as in a new immigrant or newcomers sector. It's very interesting for me that my background, I can transform my background into the new skill, new job, new sector in Canada. It's very interesting.
It is indeed. And, that is what I would like to ask Amal next about. So 2 things that Naghmeh just mentioned were, how she has worked with people earlier back in Iran as well. And, the empathy that you have in this profession. Besides these, what is it that you would want to highlight in terms of skill sets that people or newcomers in general, may not realize that they bring with them, which make them so fit for this field? Amal, from your experience, if you wanted to highlight something that kind of worked for you specifically in your journey, coming from a different background, if you were looking for a job, or something that you may have seen in your colleagues.
Okay, so soft skills are extremely important here, and most of us as newcomers kind of neglect them or don't think really that much of them. So so I always, like, when I have clients and everything, I tell them, like, your technical skills are extremely important. Your soft skills are even more important, because here their main concern is that because you come from a different culture or a different background, maybe a different country, that you won't be able to kind of connect with the culture, or maybe not communicate very well. So I always think that the most important thing is your soft skills, like communication skills.
So would you be able to kindly explain what a soft skill would be, specifically, say some attendees who may be joining from outside of Canada, for them to know what is a soft skill versus technical skills?
So actually, these soft skills, we all have them, but as I said, we kind of neglect them or neglect to write them in our resumes or kind of emphasize them. So simply, soft skills are your communication skills, your multitasking, leadership skills, all of these simple things that we do in every day in our jobs, we kind of neglect to write them simply in our resumes or kind of emphasize them. And I just want you to know, when they tell you about Canadian experience, that's what they kind of want to tell you. We're a little bit scared that you might not be able to work very well in a group setting. You might not be able to communicate well your ideas to the group or lead a group, or all of that. So what we all bring with us is our communication skills, is our hard work, our patience, our multitasking, all of that. So coming into this job, it makes you realize you have these precious skills, and unfortunately we don't emphasize them. So as a newcomer, I did bring with me all of these skills, but maybe I didn't kind of advertise them very well, so that others might see how valuable I am, that I'm bringing actually other skills that maybe local people will not know about, because you're bringing with you all of this new culture, new mind, new skill sets and everything. So as
Naghmeh just mentioned.
Naghmeh kindly mentioned, you have to have empathy. You have to have, that's very important as well. In this role, you do have to have lots of empathy, because you were put in the same position, and you have to kind of remember how it felt as a newcomer. That's why I really enjoy this position I'm currently in, because I kind of put myself in their shoes. I remember how I came, how difficult it was for me to understand what's going on. So when I help them, I genuinely try to let them know all the things that I didn't know myself, or emphasize the importance of networking or volunteering, which I myself thought wasn't very important. It was a waste of time because I'm a newcomer. How am I supposed to build a network out of not knowing anyone? I just came here. It doesn't make any sense to me. But then when you put the effort into all of this, it actually does work out at the end, because it did personally for me. I found out about a job because I attended a workshop. People got to know who I am. I got to talk to people, and then they found out about my background. They found out about the stuff I like, that I was actually suitable for the role they offered me to interview for. They didn't give me the position, but they told me about the position that was not yet advertised, and it was all on me that I had to kind of do the interview or do all the process, and luckily I am part of it right now. So newcomers, you all bring with you precious skills, and just kind of be proud of that. Don't say, oh no, they won't consider me because I come from this culture or that. No, just show them that because you're from that culture or that background, you're actually going to be a very hard worker. You're going to show them something new that they haven't seen before. So newcomers, or what we bring is the communication skills and the soft skills. So just remember that you will have these precious skills. Yeah.
I'm sure, Vrunda, you will have things to add here as well. I'll tweak my question for you slightly, which is, I asked both Naghmeh and Amal about, the skills that were required, but you didn't have experience specifically in the field that you're working right now. So what were the skills that you had to develop or kind of hone specifically to be able to kind of, do your job so well in this sector? And of course, if you'd like to bring in a little bit of your experience and participation in another bridging program earlier and how it was able to help you.
Yeah, of course. So I think first I would like to start that this sector is the most receptive to take you in, because like Amal and Naghmeh said, people in this industry have been through that journey, so they are ready to accept. One of my biggest mistake when I was a newcomer was I never really focused on customer service skills, because when we are newcomers, we are blinded by the titles that we want. We focus completely on titles. Like, I meet newcomers. I tell them that you have something which is a perfect fit for outreach specialist. Then they see salary. This is not one of the best paying industries. I'm not going to lie about it, but this sector is going to give you your entry in the market. So they get so blinded by the titles they want that despite me trying my best as a frontline worker now, and even as a volunteer, they never really focus on what they can bring on the table. So that's the number one thing. I started my journey as a volunteer. I used to go with a volunteer embassy as a fundraising volunteer. Then I told them that I have social media skills. Why don't you let me use my social media skills? So they allowed me to be social media officer as a volunteer. So I think that's the number one thing that worked for me. After that, of course, I did a bridging program with the Mennonite New Life Center, and which was in association with Ryerson University. And we learned a lot about communications, this, that. After that, I got my first job as a marketing strategist, where I was able to tell the employer about the internship that I did with St. Joseph Communications, the volunteering experience that I did. So I think my suggestion to a newcomer would be, see yourself as a brand and write down what are the brand attributes that you bring to the table. For example, if I want to work in, hypothetically, if a federal government job someday, if I want to market myself to federal government of Canada, how would I do that? I would focus on the brand attributes that I bring to the table. My empathy level, my outreach, my communications. Does not mean I'm neglecting my journalism experience. I'm including that. But don't be so blindsided and obsessed with the titles that you ignore the sector. I mean, I see newcomers literally ignoring this sector, and it really hurts, partly because they are not aware of the opportunities in the sector.
I was about to just add that,
And partly because there is a lot of reluctance, because they have Googled the salary. For example, I was a communications professional. So what is the communications package in Canada? And they have Googled this bracket. So they're like, oh my God, this is less. But you just have to get started.
Yeah, there's always hope. And of course, there's a world of possibilities, as you mentioned. let's take a question at this point. Vanessa, who's joining us, has asked, and I'll open it to all of you if you have different takes on this. So Vanessa is asking us that she has a management role in media with 9 years of work experience and a bachelor in arts, and is wondering if there's a way to start a career where they can help new immigrants and kids. So with a management role in media, is there a way to start a career in where one can help new immigrants and kids? And I believe, Vrunda, you and Amal in this case do have specifically maybe not management roles, but with your media experience, or Naghmeh, I can open this to you as well, whoever would like to take it. You may not have specific technical expert advice for this question, but based on your experience, if there's something you wanted to highlight. Is that a volunteer, or can I throw this question to someone? Vrunda, go ahead, please.
Yeah. So I think one advice that I really give to people from media who bring experience in communications, I agree she wants to start with something which is, immigration and kids. My suggestion would be to make a list of all the immigrant services which are near you. And I'm sure there would be many in the vicinity. Literally go door to door, introduce yourself to the people out there, because I have not got a single job in Canada without reference. Maybe my resumes never got picked. And I'm thankful to those people who I have met throughout this journey, and they just took me wherever they go.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Naghmeh or Amal, if you wanted to add something, otherwise I can move on to the next question with Naghmeh. All right.
No.
So Naghmeh, I also wanted to, sorry, Amal, did you say anything?
No.
All right. Naghmeh, I wanted to just ask you a little bit more about, you mentioned that at some point, after not being too sure about how you could actually transfer the skills that you had from earlier into this field, and then you learned about this bridging program, which is BESIP, that helps people bridge, towards employment in this immigrant population and serve immigrant populations. So would you be able to share a little bit about your experience with the program, and specifically what are the things that you learned? Say, just highlight the main things that you learned, or the advantages that were able to, give you that edge over another person who did not do a bridging program, and how did it help you gain employment? If you could just highlight some of those, please.
Okay, sure. In the program, I learned a lot of new subjects, but for me, the highlighted subjects was workplace communication. It was very interesting for me because in the workplace communication, I learned more about soft skills more than technical skills, and and it attracted me that get me my attention that it's very important when we are working with the clients. Okay, as a psychotherapist, I know about that. I know about that. I understand that what's the, for example, what's the empathy, what's the active listener, what's the have some passion, but I didn't know how can I use it in this sector.
Yes.
And it was very, very interesting for me, and it was highlighted, workplace communication, and all the challenges that the newcomer faced. I know my challenges, and the other persons they are close to me, but I didn't know that it's common, and doesn't matter you are from which country or which culture. It's common, and all the people who come here as a newcomer have lots of common challenges. So it was very interesting that I learned in the
For sure. So what I'm hearing is that, you of course had some skills, some qualities that you brought with you, but if as a newcomer, one is struggling with understanding that how can these skills or how can these qualities in me as a person, my personality traits, or maybe the technical things that I know, how can I translate this experience into actually finding a job? So a bridging program in general, it could be BESIP in this case, it could be another bridging program offered by a different university or college or organization, but largely the role that it would play is highlight those skills, teach you how you can use those skills and show that you bring value to a certain role and how you can exhibit those traits. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, for me, no. But just I add that I agree with you that in the bridging program helps me to how to transfer my skills.
Yes,
and it was very good.
Now, Amal and Vrunda, I would also want to learn a little bit about, both of you. And Amal, in this case, I feel like you might have a little more experience having worked in the field a little longer, probably, to be able to kind of share an idea of what are the different kinds of roles available. Of course, one can do a search to see, something specifically related to some of the skills they had. For instance, Vrunda mentioned if one had marketing experience or social media skills. How is it that you can, bring those roles and connect it with this field? But for someone who probably has no idea, would you be able to shed light on some kind of starter roles that one can start applying for a search to be able to understand if they have the skills and if they have the qualifications that are required or that make them eligible for it? Amal, I'll ask you first, and Vrunda, you could please add to that.
Sure. Like any organization, settlement organizations have different departments that are responsible for different things. So for the person that asked before about the market, that she has marketing and everything, so you can actually go and volunteer in a settlement organization and offer them your skill set, or like if there's no openings, you can just quickly go there for the volunteering and say that I would like to volunteer with the marketing and communication department, because every organization has a marketing department, has a communication department, and then it's divided into subsections depending on the type of immigrant they're actually dealing with. You have newcomers who are professionals, skilled workers. You have refugees, you have claimants, you have temporary foreign workers. So you have lots of different people coming into these organizations. So there's different departments, like, for example, departments just dealing with refugees. And it can be some things that are very social and are to do with making them integrate into society, help them with the very basics. So that's a settlement department, making sure that they are capable of registering with a doctor, taking on everyday life. So there is a settlement department that deals with everything related to the everyday living. Okay, so maybe people with social backgrounds, social worker background, all of that can be a good fit for those kinds of roles. There is another one for professional newcomers who are coming in and they need employment help. And that's the case. I'm actually in that department. It was very close to what I was doing back home. So teaching and helping out students and everything. So I was fit for that role, like for the employment department. So you can help out through employment, like being in charge of different projects, bridging programs, everything that's related to employment, really. And depending on the level that you're at, like if you have a certain level of English, say English before level 4, they have their own programs. And again, there are people who are working in that section. Okay, yeah. So it's really, there's actually lots of things to kind of explore in the organization. And again, depending on what your background is, you can kind of fit it. Like, for example, if you go to our volunteering department, they tell you, they ask you, what kind of background do you have? And based on your background, they can put you into a different department. So say, for example, you want to work in an admin role. So they will tell you, sure, okay, you can actually join our the department that's responsible for the administrative work. And then you can kind of help them out. And from there, you'll get your practical experience. And at the same time, you will get exposure to what kind of roles are available within the organization. And even if you don't necessarily get a role with that organization you're volunteering with, it's still precious experience that you can use in other organizations similar. So just go onto the website for any settlement organization and you'll find that they have different departments and see what those departments do. And as I said, the settlement, where you help with everyday living, and you can even volunteer to kind of help out refugees who maybe have a low level of language skills, so they need assistance or they need translation. You can even, if you know more than one language, you can actually take a program or offer your services to kind of translate. And there are lots of services, that can help in that sense as well. Yeah, so just kind of look at all of these.
Vrunda, coming to you, I would again tweak the question slightly, because from your experience, I would also want you to talk a little bit about you're also working as an employment intake professional and helping others with, you're connecting them with the right roles within the immigrant serving sector. So what are some of the things that you would want to highlight besides qualities that you would seek in an individual, or what is it that they need to highlight when speaking to professionals who can hire them? Some strategies to be able to kind of make it into the career. Volunteering worked for you, networking worked for you. Would you be able to elaborate a little bit on that and help people understand how is it that they can get closer to getting employment in the sector?
Yeah, Shruti, I'm going to be, so to start with, there are roles like program assistant, where people are always hiring. There are roles like client intake specialist. These are the titles that you should look for, because they are open to take people in these roles, But if there are roles like job developer and you have just arrived, there might be some reluctance to take you as a job developer, because as a job developer, you are expected to know the employers around you before, they take you for job developers. So number one, I would recommend people to search for, and every organization runs different programs, because they are completely funded by different partners. So one needs to do research. In my previous organization, there was a program called as Bike Hub. So they used to look for people who can repair bikes and also teach some basics of bike repairs to the community. So there are interesting programs run by different organizations. So number one thing is to do research, because if I'm interviewing someone, I want the person to know about my program, who the funders are, who does this program help, how are you going to bring the employers, how are you going to pitch the subsidy to the employers. So these are the skills that I will focus on. But look for roles like program assistant. Tell people, tell the recruiter how can you be the best fit for program assistant role. There are roles like community connections partner, So you need to start volunteering and tell in your cover letter that why are you a perfect fit for community connections? What have you done to build community? Roles like that. Can you also repeat the second question for me?
No, I'd also want to know, besides these roles, what are some of the ways through volunteering or say networking, if you could briefly highlight what worked for you? You, of course, said that you reached out to so many people. What can bring them closer to,
I think I never stopped adding skills, because in a very short span, I knew that everything that I have done in India, I used to go with newspapers and my magazine articles, and I used to tell people, this is what I have done. This was such a famous magazine in India. Oh my God, you should see what I have written. But honestly, people don't care. So I realized it in 4 months and I started adding skills. I did this bridging program. I met as many people as I could. Like I would literally write people that, hey, would you mind coming for a coffee? I want to know the skills that I want to understand the market from you. If it works, it works. If it doesn't. I'll never used to take it personally. And as a journalist, you are used to not to take things personally. And apart from bridging program, I also did continuing education. And that is how I got my first job. So the person who was doing the marketing course after me was referred to me by my mentor, who was a tutor in the continuing education. So I never...
Connections again, yes.
Yeah, connection. I never stopped. Till date, I feel that I don't have enough skills. There is always this complex in me that maybe I should add more skills. So that is the thing about Canada. You enter the market and keep adding skills and you never know what is in store for you.
And that's wonderful. Naghmeh, I'd like to come to you next, because I'll take a lead from what Vrunda just shared, which is, of course, there are ways to be able to elevate or amplify the chances of you gaining employment in the sector. In your case, it may have been the bridging program. Would you be able to highlight some other aspects of the bridging program, specifically, say, for instance, of course, there are some theory classes, and then there is a practical component. You said that you learned about the skills that you probably had in you and how you could use them. And now you're one of the successful participants, of course, who's been bridged, right? You have an employment in the sector.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. How did you find your first employment role, your first employment?
Sorry, Shruti, you means that how did I found my...
Yes, if you could tell us a little bit about, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Because I did some in different fields. So yes, I have this job from the bridging program. Bridging program helped me to find this job by helping me to make connection with people who are working in this field. In the bridging program, I learned how to make a connection with them, how to know them, how to find them. For example, how to find them in LinkedIn, how to find them by send a professional email, and making a call with them. So it was very useful for me and helped me to find a right place to take a placement. Okay, and after that, because of many things that I learned, and also have some skills from my career, helped me to get a job, fortunately. And now I'm working as a settlement counselor in a settlement organization.
And that's wonderful to hear, of course, because, one of the things that I'm hearing from you is that the program, whatever program it might be for people with different professions, what it's going to do to you is, as a newcomer, you're on your own and you're looking for those connections. You're with all three of you saying similar things. One needs connections, one needs that determination to kind of keep adding skills. You need to understand what skill set you bring. But at the end of the day, it is applying all of that. It's a mix of all of that. And any program that you're part of, or when you volunteer, when you network, you're able to get that boost with the help of people who understand probably that sector better. And they're able to just hold your hand slightly and, help you make your way into the sector.
Yeah. I just add one thing, and
Sure.
I mentioned that for me, volunteering was very useful too, because before I started the bridging program and volunteering in the another organization as a workshop instructor, not settlement worker, but helped me to know how what is the newcomer needs, in mental health, for example, or as emotional or different challenges or difficulties, but it helps me that understand the newcomer's need.
Yes. And let me ask you another question here. Also, you, of course, had experience in this earlier, having worked in the immigrant-serving sector, but what would you say now, reflecting back on your journey, since when you arrived, the challenges that you probably encountered early on, to now when you are able to help others? If you could share a little bit about, that feeling of being able to give back to the society or kind of help other newcomers. Would you want to speak a little to that, Naghmeh?
Oh, sorry. I think you asked Amal. Okay. Could you repeat your question?
Sure. Like, how does it feel for you to now actually have found employment in the sector, and in many ways you're giving back to the society, or you're helping other newcomers in the sector, help them settle down?
To find a job for Yes. Also, as a settlement counselor, this is a part of our responsibility to help the others, to help to find a right pathway for continued education or find a job. And introducing bridging programs, it's a part of that, the informations that I like to give them and it's very interesting that sometimes most of the time I see that some newcomer didn't know about that. And when I'm talking, they are very excited, and they became excited and become encouraged to apply for that. It's very interesting because it's very useful to help specific to professional newcomers and educated newcomers to save their time and reach to the job sooner. Yeah.
And give them the information that probably they didn't really have without reaching out to a settlement counselor. Vrunda, I'd like to know from your experience, we heard a little bit about your journey initially, but if you were to combine it all together, your journey as an immigrant and now you helping other immigrants or newcomers, express the feeling and tell me if there is any kind of learning there, or what is it that mistakes that you made that now you're helping other people understand that they shouldn't go through the same difficult paths.
Yeah, thank you, Shruti. I think the number one thing is first thing before I go to another chain of thoughts, I want to say that there is a helpline number 211. Most immigrants are not aware of. Please call 211. They are going to brief you about what are the settlement agencies near you, and for me, how the process has been, I think it's a very gratifying feeling, something that makes you go above and beyond your call of duty. Sometimes I'm working, my family says that, why are you working so much? Because I don't want to put anyone in the shoes that I have been there, because it's a very dark phase to be in without job and without anything. And third is, do not underestimate this sector. It is huge. It is one of, I think, in my opinion, it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest. It gives many jobs and it's very receptive. And do research about the organizations, because every organization has different funders. They have different programs. Be very specific in your approach that, hey, for example, I'm in a youth program. So if someone comes to me and tells me, I know about your program, it's you support youth, it feels good, right? So do research about the programs that you are applying for. And like I said, focus on the skills that you bring to the table. It may just sound like, that you are earning less for a year or two, but I'm sure that many doors will open once you have crossed that path. Mm-hmm. And there will be openings in universities, there will be openings maybe for a bigger titles like, the coordinators and managers role, but just get into the sector.
For sure. And, you again mentioned skills, and I do see a question from the audience related to that, which is a question from Kanis asking that, Amal, earlier you mentioned about showcasing one's soft skills to communicate transferable skill on the resume. Would you be able to unpack that further, maybe offer an example? So probably, yeah. I think I'll ask Amal for this one.
Sure. Just simply by showcasing, like while you're showcasing in your skill section on your resume, you're showing your technical skills. Just list your soft skills as well, like soft skills like communication, leadership, all of that. However, the way that you showcase it is through your responsibilities and duties that you did. Because any skills, anything that you claim at the top, like the skills, your background, your experience, an HR personnel will kind of go through your responsibilities and see where you obtained these. So when we're writing about our responsibilities, we're not just writing the duties that we did. We're actually kind of highlighting to the employer the accomplishments that you've achieved. Like if you're writing a certain number of reports every day, write that, emphasize it. And that's how you kind of showcase your soft skills, that you have the writing and language skills. If you're leading a team of 5, for example, or even a team of 2, just simply writing about how you're leading that team, into accomplishing certain tasks every day on a daily basis has increased, for example, the outcome of customer satisfaction by 20% or something, that in itself kind of shows to the person who's reading your resume that you have leadership skills, you have organizational skills, and you can work very well within a team. So that's when I say highlight your soft skills, that's basically what I'm saying. Kind of just highlight what you were doing back home, which are the normal tasks, but you're just highlighting them in a way that kind of shows your accomplishments of every day. That's what I meant when I said highlight your soft skills.
Yeah. And I'd also like to extend the question I asked Vrunda and Naghmeh both about, the fact that you're, again, working in a sector that is giving back to people who are now moving to Canada. Is there an advice? Is there a learning that you would like to highlight from your journey?
Yeah, sure. To be honest, in this job specifically, because I myself was a newcomer, I didn't like stuff in the system I think is really unfair. And just to highlight something, we're all emphasizing on the point of volunteering and networking and everything, just to make it a little bit simpler. I know this is not something that you can get access to straight away. And as a newcomer, maybe you're confused about how you can enter an organization and simply ask them to volunteer or to network and all of that. It might be something that's very unfamiliar to you. And it was to me. Like, to me, all of this was kind of foreign. I'm like, why can't I just simply go into the internet and just apply for a job like any normal person would? Like, why do I have to do all of this extra stuff? So just to put it simply, join any program, even like a beginner program where they're just telling you how to fix your resume and a cover letter and all of that. It doesn't have to be a bridging program. It doesn't have to be any of those big programs. Just a simple, normal program showcasing to you the market, how to enter the market, and everything can actually be your starting point where you will meet mentors, where you will start volunteering, where you can start networking. And from there, you don't even, then you can find the opportunities. And going back to your question about how I actually feel very good when I help someone out, or if I answer a simple question. I try to go out of my way to kind of just answer them and kind of help them in any way I could, because I remember how I was in the beginning and how frustrating it was for me sometimes, and me questioning everything, like, why did I come here? I had a brilliant job back home. Why did I do this to myself? But then I just remember, like, you just put the effort back in again. So I try to help them in that sense, kind of just give them a little bit of hope, tell them there is stuff that's not working out, but you can do this and this to kind of achieve your goals. So it does feel good when I kind of like see people coming back to me and saying, thank you for your help. Actually, this helped me fix my resume or help me get a job. So it's very rewarding when you know that your help actually makes people succeed in what they're doing.
Yeah. And something tells me that I think all three of you probably will be getting lots of requests either on LinkedIn, or people will be searching for your names, because we have like 2 people helping with the employment and 1 person helping with settlement experiences and offering that support. So of course, what better like people could we have had on this panel today? Naghmeh, before I talk a little bit more about the bridging program, is there anything you wanted to add similar to Vrunda and Amal?
I just want to say that I think for all newcomers, and it's very important that to be patient and searching and doing some things, and accept their situation, the new situation, and be ready to learn new things. I think it's very important that as a newcomer, we accept that we are learning. It's very difficult, but it's true.
And those are wise words. And coming from your experience as well. Now, of course, before we end today's session, I would want to welcome someone who can talk a little bit more about the specific bridging program that we have mentioned earlier, which is BESIP. And for that, I would like to welcome Nadine Palmer, representing the bridging program, to talk a little bit more about if there are people in the audience who had questions about eligibility, or, is it the program for them? Let's hear it from Nadine. Welcome, Nadine. If you could also tell about your role as someone who helps with placement, participants finally making it to jobs. Could you highlight that as well?
Okay. Hi, everyone. I am Nadine Palmer. I am the BESIP placement counselor. So with my role, I do a lot of the career building workshops. So everything related to employment and getting a placement, but you should definitely, it's still related to employment after. I work with students and I work with organizations. So I do a little bit of recruiting to make sure we have a good match of what the student wants and what the organization is looking for. Also, I just want to say that I provide valuable workshops that are robust so that people could take away information and apply it to their placement. Naghmeh talked about some of the workshops she attended, like workplace communications, but there's frontline services, resume, cover letter, job search. All of those are a part of the BESIP program. So all of that in 4 months. So it's a very intense 4 months. But when you come out of that 4 months and ready for placement, I'm there with you to be there to monitor and supervise and make sure placement is going great, and do those check-ins with your placement supervisor also. So to make sure that you're getting the value out of your placement.
Thanks for sharing that, Nadine. And also, of course, we touched upon some aspect of this bridging program, but before we close, is there any other specific detail regarding the eligibility that you would want to highlight here?
Yes, I'll share my screen.
Sure.
Okay. Sorry about that. It looks little, but it's not. Okay. So the overview of the BESIP program, which BESIP stands for Bridge to Employment in Working with Immigrant Populations. So the mission of BESIP is Immigrant-serving immigrants. And it's a 6 months training and workplace exposure. So that's that placement. And also plus up to 1 year of job search support. So it's not now that you're finished placement, it's goodbye. It's no, we're continuing to work with you until you get a job. Naghmeh was right after placement, she got a job because she's amazing. And they saw all of these skills that she had, soft skills, past experience, how she could relate it and put it all into settlement counseling. But that's what we're here for, to make those connections, right? It opens doors to your professional employment and delivers services to immigrants, prepares you to manage and a progressive career in the field of your choice. So some people go into settlement, some people have taken the skills that they've learned and opened it up to broader social services. So we've had graduates become family support workers. We have graduates go into employment. So we have employment counselors that have come through BESIP. So it's where you would like to take it. Take that information and apply it to different parts of social services. Provide a community and a supportive environment so you do not do it all alone. So one of the things Naghmeh said was like, you don't want to do it alone. You have a group of also settlement workers that are going through it with you. So they're going through the program with you. They're getting careers in social services as a settlement worker or a larger social services, but they're your network now. Okay. And eligibility, last but not least, international post-secondary education. So it doesn't have to be social services, doesn't have to be anything related to, but those transferable skills definitely help. And then 2 years of work experience outside of Canada. So it could be within a different field other than social services or social work. And L is missing, but it's language proficiency, which is a COB of 7. Interest in working with immigrants and valuable and vulnerable populations. So you have to want to help, want to give back. And then the legal immigration status, so naturalized Canadian citizen, permanent resident, conventional refugee, and refugee claimants with a permit, and the CUAET, and then also a resident of Ontario, because we need to monitor your placement in different time zones. When you're in Alberta, if you're in Vancouver, I'm not staying up late to call you at your placement. So we want you to make sure that you're in Eastern Standard Time, where we could definitely check in with you, your placement supervisor, and ensure everything is going good. So just to wrap up, the BESIP program is a great program, high success rate in placing our students in placement. And in this industry of social services, which with experience, it is easier to get in, but with a program that's so intense as the 4-month program, we have connections within the social services that we connect you with. And that's what my job is as a placement counselor. And I look forward to seeing you register. And back to you, Shruti.
Thank you, Nadine. And it was wonderful, of course, hearing from you. And we hope that people attending today and watching later will be reaching out to you for this. Of course, this bridging program is offered only within Ontario, but we can hope that through Amal's experience, you were also able to hear a little bit about her and her working in Alberta. And of course, research would tell you more about other bridging programs. And at New Canadians, we have lots and lots of resources and information for newcomers, whether you're looking for bridging programs, employment resources, or help with settlement. We have lots of handy resources there for you across different channels. This episode of Café New Canadians, like I mentioned earlier, was brought to you in collaboration with Mennonite New Life Center that offers the BESIP bridging program. And it was wonderful having you join us today. Thank you. And if you wanted to, of course, access some of the resources that I just mentioned as part of New Canadians, you can watch us on Omni Television, those of you who are in Canada. You can also check out all of our content across our YouTube channel, our website, and lots of updates on social media. Another way to stay in touch would be if you subscribe to our newsletter or join our mailing list, so we can send you information about bridging programs, about other resources from time to time, straight into your inbox. Without taking any more of your time, thank you again to the panelists and the attendees, Vrunda, Naghmeh, Amal, and Nadine. Thank you so much for joining us and, of course, sharing so much more valuable information with the attendees. Thanks a lot, everyone.